One of the first things you'll want to do when you get set up in Teams is update your notification settings. The process is the same whether you're using the desktop app or the web client. Now, the reason you'll want to do this is Teams can feel very overwhelming if you don't change up how you are notified about different events within Teams. To access the notification settings, just click your profile photo in the top right corner and then select Settings. Notifications is the third option down. And for each of these events in Teams, you'll see 3 to 4 options for how you can be notified. For things like personal mentions, let's say I'm not in Teams at the time, the app is closed, and someone mentions me, I can have it either show a banner if I'm actively using Teams, so a little notification will pop up, or a banner and email. And what that means is if I'm not using Teams, I'll get an email that says, hey, someone mentioned you in Teams. I can also change this to only show in feed. And what that means is that if I were to click the activity feed, which is at the top of the left-hand navigation, I would only see when I was personally mentioned if I checked that. Now you can set these up however you like. Some of these settings can actually be turned off entirely, depending on what they are. But if I had to make one or two recommendations, the first is I prefer to turn notification sounds off, especially because I use Teams a lot, especially for chat. So I don't like having those dings go off every so often. The other thing I like to do is change my missed activity emails to daily. The reason for that is, let's say I'm not in Teams and I get a lot of notifications. I don't want to get an email for each individual one, so saying this to daily or maybe once every 8 hours means that I get a digest of those. Now, the nice thing is, if between the beginning of the day and the end, if I log in, I see that someone has mentioned me since then, I will no longer get an email about that missed activity. One last thing that I want to point out here is that at the very bottom there's an option called status, and what that lets you do is it lets you get a notification when a certain person changes their status. So when, let's say, they're offline for a while, if they appear online, you would get a Teams notification. This can be helpful if you really need to get a hold of someone and you're just waiting for them to hop back onto Teams. But one thing that I want to point out is this setting is saved until you go in and delete it. So if I say I want to be notified every time Scott signs on to Teams, I would have to manually come in here and turn this off. By the way, you see the notification popped up that said Scott is now available. That will happen every time Scott's status changes in Teams for me until I come in here and turn that off.